Hi, my name is Savannah Mitchell, and this is the story of how I went from being humiliated and thrown out in the freezing night by the very people who promised to be family to the moment I stood taller than all of them with a truth so heavy it buried their cruelty. The cold hit me first, like a slap. Then the snow. It was a physical shove, hard and unexpected. My feet slipped on the icy patch, and I landed, not gracefully, but with a jarring thud, right into the fresh powder. No coat, no shoes, just my thin dress and the biting Massachusetts winter. I scrambled to get up, my hands burning from the cold. Through the brightly lit windows of their mansion, I could still hear it, their laughter. It echoed, sharp and clear, in the frosty air. Dead weight. Someone had sneezed. They didn't know. They had no idea that the dead weight they'd just tossed into the snow was sitting on a secret, a very quiet, very powerful secret worth $101 million. It had been a cold evening from the start, not just outside, but inside their grand, imposing house. The air was thick with a kind of unspoken chill, one that I had grown to recognize over the years. My husband, Robert, had said it was a family gathering, a chance to patch things up, he'd mumbled. But as soon as I stepped through the massive oak doors, I knew it was a lie. The way his mother, Eleanor, looked at my simple, store-bought dress spoke volumes. Her eyes, usually sharp, now held a kind of contempt that made my stomach clench. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? I love seeing how far the story travels. Robert's brother, James, was there too, leaning against the fireplace, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. As I walked past, he leaned in, just enough for me to hear. Still clinging on, charity case, he whispered, his breath warm against my ear, a stark contrast to the coldness in his voice. I felt my cheeks flush, but I kept walking, straight to where Robert stood, talking animatedly with his father, Richard. Robert saw me. His eyes met mine for a fleeting second, and then he just looked away. He didn't come to me. He didn't offer a smile. He just went back to his conversation. My heart sank, a familiar ache starting in my chest. Dinner was a performance. The long, mahogany table gleamed under the chandeliers. Silverware clinked against fine china. Every plate was a work of art, every glass filled with expensive wine. I sat quietly, picking at my food, trying to disappear into the ornate wallpaper. Eleanor kept making little comments, not directly to me, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Some people just don't understand the value of presentation. It's a shame when talent isn't recognized, isn't it? Her words were like tiny needles, pricking at me. Then Richard stood up, clinking his fork against his glass. The room fell silent. A toast, he announced, his voice booming, to strong women, women who understand the value of hard work, women who bring value to a family, to a business, to society. He raised his glass high. Every eye in the room followed his, and then, slowly, deliberately, he turned his gaze to me. His eyes, usually cold, now held a look of pure disdain. He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. The message was clear. It hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. After dinner, the insults became sharper, bolder. We had moved to the drawing room, a vast space with plush carpets and dark, heavy furniture. Eleanor started talking about Robert's future, about the family business, about potential wives who would truly understand their legacy. James chimed in, making a crude joke about people who latch onto wealth. I tried to speak, to defend myself, to say something, anything. I work hard too, I started, my voice small, but my words were swallowed by their laughter. It was a wall of sound, shutting me out, making me feel smaller and smaller. Finally, Eleanor's voice cut through the noise, sharp as a knife. You're nothing but dead weight, Savannah. A burden. You bring nothing to this family. My breath caught in my throat. I looked at Robert. He was standing by the large bay window, his back mostly to me. He heard it. He had to. My eyes pleaded with him, silently begging him to say something, to defend me, to be my husband. But he just stood there. Then he turned. Not to me, but to the front door. He walked over to it, his movements slow and deliberate. My heart pounded. What was he doing? He reached for the handle, twisted it, and pulled the heavy door open. A blast of icy air swept into the room, carrying with it the smell of snow and freezing wind. "Maybe the cold will teach you something," he muttered, his voice flat, devoid of any emotion. Then, with a sudden, forceful push, he shoved me forward. I stumbled, unprepared, into the biting night. The snow was coming down harder now, big, fat flakes swirling around me. I tried to turn back, to say something, but the door slammed shut. The sound echoed, final and absolute. The click of the lock was a death knell to everything I thought we had. I didn't cry. Not then. The cold was too shocking, too immediate. My hands were shaking, not just from the chill, but from the raw, burning anger that was starting to simmer inside me. My breath plumed out in front of me, little white clouds disappearing into the dark. I didn't beg. I didn't knock on the door, pleading to be let back in. I just stood there for a moment, the silence of the blizzard a stark contrast to the mocking laughter that still seemed to ring in my ears. Then I started to walk, one foot in front of the other, crunching through the fresh snow. The long, winding driveway seemed endless. My feet, bare and exposed, were already numb. But I kept walking. I remembered my late grandfather's words. He had been a quiet man, but his words had always carried immense weight. "Never shout when silence can slice deeper, Savannah," he'd told me once, his eyes twinkling. Sometimes, the quietest actions make the loudest statements. I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling with the cold, and called for a ride. I didn't look back at the mansion, its windows glowing warmly, a beacon of the cruelty within. I just kept walking, my vision blurring slightly from the cold, until the car arrived. I got in, the warmth of the heater a small comfort, and disappeared into the night, leaving their jeers and their mansion behind. Back in my small, quiet apartment, the warmth felt like a luxury I hadn't deserved in years. My body was still trembling, but the shock was slowly giving way to a strange, unsettling calm. I walked over to my laptop, my movements deliberate. No one knew about this part of my life. Not Robert, not his family, not even my closest friends. It was my secret, a private world I had built for myself. I opened the laptop, the screen illuminating my face in the dim light. My fingers, still aching from the cold, typed in the password to my trust account. Years ago, my grandfather had left me an inheritance. Not a small sum, but a significant amount. He had been a shrewd investor, and he had taught me well. He had put the money in a trust, with the understanding that I would manage it, learn from it, and make it grow. He had wanted me to have a safety net, a power that no one could take from me. I had managed it quietly, meticulously, investing in companies, watching the markets, making smart choices. I clicked open the account details. The numbers flashed on the screen, a long string of digits. My heart didn't race with greed, as some might expect. Instead, it steadied. A quiet, profound sense of power settled over me. There it was. The balance. $101 million. It wasn't just a number. It was freedom. It was protection. It was a weapon I never thought I would need. But now, it felt like the only thing keeping me standing. Within days, the rumors started. Like whispers on the wind, they drifted through the social circles of Massachusetts, reaching me even in my quiet solitude. Robert's family business, a sprawling enterprise that had seemed invincible, was in trouble. Deep financial trouble. I heard snippets of conversations from old acquaintances, saw articles hinting at instability. They were desperate for cash. Then the calls started. First from Robert, then from Eleanor, then from Richard. Their messages were clipped, strained. "Savannah, darling, we were so harsh the other night. You know how we get with family. But family sticks together, right?" Eleanor's voice, usually so sharp, now had an edge of desperation I had never heard before. Robert's calls were short, awkward, filled with apologies that felt hollow. "We need to talk, Savannah, for old time's sake." I let the calls go unanswered. My phone buzzed constantly, a relentless reminder of the sudden need. Their arrogance, once so solid, was slowly, painfully, transforming into panic. I pictured them, pacing their opulent rooms, their faces etched with worry, and a small, bitter satisfaction bloomed in my chest. I knew what I had to do. This wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about proving my grandfather right. It was about showing them what dead weight could truly achieve. I set up meetings with my lawyers and financial advisors. We worked in hushed tones, behind closed doors. My instructions were clear, my moves precise. I quietly purchased controlling shares in one of their key suppliers, a company critical to the operation of Robert's family business. They wouldn't know who the new silent investor was. Not yet. It wasn't about flaunting my wealth. It was about a precise, strategic strike, a chess move they wouldn't see coming until it was too late. Weeks later, the annual charity gala was upon us. It was the event of the season, a place where the city's elite gathered, a stage for power and influence. My in-laws would be there, I knew, desperate to keep up appearances, to project an image of unwavering stability despite the whispers. I chose an elegant, simple gown, a deep emerald green that I felt brought out a strength I hadn't known I possessed. I arrived fashionably late, a quiet entrance into the bustling ballroom. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and the murmur of polite conversation. I saw them across the room, Eleanor, Robert, Richard, strutting with a false confidence, their smiles a little too wide, their laughter a little too loud. Midway through the evening, the charity's host, a prominent figure in the city, took the stage. The lights dimmed slightly, and a hush fell over the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice booming through the speakers, "we have a very important announcement tonight, one that will reshape the landscape of business in our city." My in-laws perked up, their curiosity piqued. "As of today," the host continued, "the esteemed Mitchell Enterprises is officially under new controlling ownership." A ripple went through the crowd. Heads turned. Whispers erupted. I watched my in-laws across the room. Their smiles had vanished. Their faces were ashen. They looked at each other, their eyes wide with disbelief, then panic. They started to rush forward, pushing through the crowd, desperate to confront this new owner. And then, the host gestured towards the side of the stage. "And here is the new owner." The spotlight swung. I stepped forward. The room fell silent. An audible gasp went through the crowd. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. Richard's jaw dropped. Robert, who had been pushing his way to the front, froze mid-step, his eyes fixed on me, wide with shock and utter betrayal. The same woman they had tossed into the snow, the dead weight, now stood taller than all of them, holding their financial lifeline in her hands. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even smile. I simply looked at them, my gaze steady, calm, and unwavering. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken truths. Then I spoke, my voice clear and low, carrying through the stunned room. "You taught me I was dead weight," I said, my eyes still fixed on theirs. I carried that weight, and it built an empire. My words weren't screams. They were a whisper, but they cut deeper than any shout ever could, slicing through their arrogance, their cruelty, their entire world. I didn't stay to watch their reactions. I didn't need to. I turned, slowly, and walked away from the stage, from the stunned crowd, from their shuttered faces. I didn't look back. I had delivered my message. I didn't destroy them completely. I had allowed them to live, but with the shame, the profound humiliation, of knowing that their own cruelty had birthed their downfall. With a portion of my inheritance, I established a foundation. It supports women who have been abandoned, underestimated, and hurt by the very families who should have protected them. It gives them a voice, a means to build their own strength, their own quiet power. And finally, I want to tell you this. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, silence is the sound of building something they'll never take from you. White right pointing backhand index. If you've ever been underestimated, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more stories of betrayal and revenge that end with truth winning quietly.